When my manager offered me extra shifts last week, I said yes without hesitation. I don't do much in the evenings, and I could use the extra cash. Get Nadia to show you round the play center before you leave today, said Craig. Nadia's my coworker. The soft play center is her patch. Most jobs at the leisure center take 2, maybe 3 hours at most. But Nadia rarely got away before 10 each night. My tongue was already in knots. Sorry, would it be okay if I got here for, 5 p.m.? He gave a smiling nod. Nadia doesn't usually start the clean till 6. I thanked him again. Good manners make up for all the times I'd taken his instructions way too literally. Craig's been much more tolerant with me than other bosses. His slow, plodding steps and thick Blackpool accent made it hard to feel afraid of him. See how you like it? He fell in step beside me as I continued down the corridor to find my colleague. I thought he was making a joke, and tried to laugh. I'm probably a bit old for soft play. He laughed. No, I meant the cleaning shift. Oh, of course. It's a very different job from cleaning the gym. But if you like it, you could maybe take these hours on for good. Is Nadia leaving? Craig gave a slow shrug. She's off on holiday this week. We'll see what happens after that. Thanks, sweetheart. I liked Nadia. We didn't know each other that well, but I'd only ever had kindly smiles from her, and she never seemed annoyed when I asked for help. What's more, I always thought that she kind of looked like Mary from Silent Hill. Eventually I found her in the cleaning cupboard, twirling her earphones round her finger. Sorry. At the sound of my voice, she let out a stifled gasp. I smiled in apology. I should have not. She stared at me, wide-eyed, for a second or so, waiting for her brain to process whose face she was looking at. Oh, hey. She laid her hand on my arm. Sorry. Honey, sorry. And no worries. Craig says you're off. Tomorrow? She nodded. I'm covering your shifts this week. I continued. Just wondered if you had a second to show me how you clean the soft play sometime this morning. Nadia looked at me in silence for a minute. It made me feel a little awkward. Had I offended her? Craig asked you to cover me? Yeah. I smiled. Her eyes grew wider. I felt myself wilt. I guess she thought I was incompetent but was too nice to admit it. Uh-huh. She shook her head and stuck her phone back in her pocket, leaving the earphones trailing, ushering me out. She smiled hard. I started upstairs. The experience of that first walk around was one of nostalgia. The faded walls, the gaudy illustrations of cartoon animals, and the playful shadows cast by snaking slides and sprawling ball pits were precisely as I remembered them. The sickly smell of birthday cake and vomit inspired in me a wave of memories. As we plodded round the parents' cafe, I could almost see Mom sipping tea at the corner table, like some disconsolate prisoner. I felt my brother's spirit running to the rope's wing that dangled barely half a foot from the cushioned floor. Even the squeak of Nadia's trainers against the spongy green floor was tinged with childhood. I remembered every lonely moment, playing by myself at the back while the other kids giggled behind me. I don't mop every day. Nadia's voice brought me back from reverie. Oh, that's good. Only once or twice a week. Or when someone spilled juice. I was glad to hear it. At the back of the soft play, the dimly lit corridors wound left and right without any discernible pattern. We passed a solitary waste bin, shaped like an anthropomorphic beetle. Its sordid smile betrayed 10 years' grime. We changed the bins too, right? I asked, and the silence had lasted a little too long between us. If you want. Nadia turned to me. We're not technically meant to start clean down until 6 p.m., but I try and sneak in here at 5. That way I'm not here after dark. I imagine it's a bit spooky after dark. Back here. I meant it as a joke. But Nadia took me seriously. You don't have to stay the whole 3 hours. You know. Her heavy tone caught me off guard. But as I studied her face, I saw her features bore a strange, almost protective quality. Just make sure you don't hang around if you don't need to. It doesn't take a whole 3 hours. And if you feel weird about being here alone, just lock up and get out. Okay? I was touched. Thanks. She held my gaze. It was as though she wanted me to say something more. I couldn't think of anything to say that wouldn't sound contrived. Still, she added, at last, don't put yourself at risk. It's not worth it. My first shift was that night. I got to the sports center just before 5 and got a Red Bull from the vending machine. Before I went any further, I pulled my earphones carefully over my head. The long, striplet corridor has that hard, vinyl flooring that makes footsteps offensively loud. I pattered past the disused lockers and the old squash courts, until I reached the door emblazoned TunnelWig Play Centre. I swiped my card and opened the door. As it was nearly closing, a handful of kids were visible through the rope mesh that separated the Play Centre from the parents' cafe. A tired-looking young woman called her child from one of the tables as a supervisor appeared behind the counter. She was tall and bland, maybe 28 or 29 years old, and very pretty. "Hey." She flashed me a sunny smile. "Hello," I mumbled. I too early to get started. "Where's Nadia?" "She's on holiday." "Oh, you're recovering?" "Uh-huh." The sound of my voice was egregious to me. She nodded over to the cafe. "Would you mind getting started over there?" "Please?" "Someone's just wee-weed on the floor." My attraction to her died that instant. I filled my bucket full of lemon soap and hot water, before dragging it over to the pool of wee-wee. I finished up the floor and got started in the cafe, sweeping crumbs off tables, wiping down chairs, before running the shitty Henry Hoover over the sticky floor. It was nearly 8:30 when I got done, and all the Play Centre staff had left. I sighed. I was so tired, and the constant smell of nappies grated on my senses. Waiting for me upstairs was the wreckage of a birthday party. Garish cellophane and disheveled party hats were strewn over the floor. I crouched down and crawled inside the jungle gym itself. Cake crumbs and sticky fingerprints were smeared across the interlocking foam flooring and walls. I cleared as much as I could, before shuffling back out of the cramped tunnel to empty the pan. It takes a lot to gross me out these days. What I noticed in the pan didn't gross me out as such. It gave me pause. Amidst the party crumbs was a single strand of human hair. There's nothing abnormal in that. Kids pull each other's hair out all the time. The weird thing is that this hair was silver. Wrinkling my nose, I lowered the dustpan into the cafe bin. Someone's grandma must have followed their grandchild into the squishy tunnel and got stuck. Maybe they had smuggled in some red wine to pass the time, while their infant threw themselves at other kids and into ball pits for hours. It must have been a very small old lady who could fit in there. Once the crumbs were clear, I shuffled back out of the tunnel. It wasn't easy, even at 5'5". I was too long for the environment and ended up back crawling out of the warren like a fat badger. The soft place cushions were warm to the touch, but it was freezing in the cafe area. I pulled my jacket closer over my uniform. If the janitors had turned the central heating off, I was probably the only person left on site. I never thought I cared about working late, but the idea of the empty swimming pools and miles of deserted corners gave me a creepy feeling. I'd never been at the leisure center this late before. Maybe that's why my soul left my body when I caught sight of a leering face out of the corner of my eyes. It was, of course, only the Beetle Ben, its plastic mouth incapable of anything more than a sheet-eating grin. Laughing, I sauntered over to it and produced another cloth from my pocket. I sprayed the synthetic cheek with blue window cleaning fluid and scrubbed coffee spots off the white cat's teeth. Why would they put this in a kid's play center? Don't get me wrong. The hideous, sordid creature was probably charming when it was new. In its present state, only Russ McCain would choose it for furniture. The sleazy effect was not helped by the slogan slapped on the wall above in yellow bubble writing, "Can you find the TunnelWig?" I fucking hope not. I finished polishing the bin and reached to unscrew its gray head. I carefully held my breath as I ducked close to its mouth to prevent the damp, rotten smell of the rubbish from invading my senses. It did not. I jumped back from the beetle bin. Its many limbs were fixed in a perpetual shrug. You get used to freaky stenches when you clean for a living. But this smell was different. Think sickly sweet birthday cake frosting, mixed with banana peels and those button mushrooms that languish at the bottom of the vegetable drawer. Think mold furring on apples. Or a Halloween pumpkin left out in the rain until January. What the hell were they putting in there? I peered at the bin with renewed caution. It probably hadn't been changed in months. I double-gloved my hands and craned my neck back as I reached forward to carefully unscrew the beetle's head. Had someone brought their hamster in, only for it to escape and die at the bottom of the barrel? It smelled too sweet to be a carcass. But as I inched closer and closer to the beetle bin, I reconsidered. Sweaty hands closed around suppurating peaches. A stomach distended from a manic binge. A devil's smoothie. It actually made my head swim as I placed my hands on the beetle's smiling cheeks and slowly unscrewed the top. The black plastic rustled, and a waft of death assaulted my senses. I turned my nose away, pressed my lips together, and coiled the bin bag closed around my finger. Slowly, I lifted it, only to find that the liner was stuck to the bin's bottom. Whatever was making the unholy smell had leaked through the plastic and solidified. Oh God. I gingerly shook the bin to loosen it. To no avail. No wonder Nadia never changes it. I thought, they should just chuck this in a skip. It was too far behind the cafe area to get proper use anyway. Yet I could not in good conscience neglect my duties by leaving the spoiled bag in situ. Kids use this space. Whatever was in the bag, it wasn't safe. Besides, I didn't want Nadia to think I had half-arsed it or Craig. For that matter. Come on. Come on. I whispered, half to the beetle and half to myself. That was when I felt it, a sharp, piercing stinging on the back of my clenched palm. It was acute, like a dog bite, but as I pulled my hand away with a cry, it oozed until my whole hand throbbed. What the fuck? I staggered back, pressing hard on my hand that shrieked in pain. I lifted my fingers for a second to see if my skin was broken. I turned my hand over, then back again, looking for a welt or a cut. Not only was there no blood, but there was no mark to be seen at all. Where still was the feeling that succeeded. A cold, prickly realization, like sweat breaking on my brow, that I was not alone. My nerve broke like a twig beneath my feet. I kicked the Hoover back into the cleaning cupboard, grabbed my cleaning caddy and hard and out of there. I thundered down the stairs and back into the reception bay. Before jamming the key code in and throwing back the door, I didn't stop running until I got to the cloakroom. Just as I pulled my bag over my shoulder, I realized how absurd the whole thing was. I stood there, panting, and checking my hand over again. Nothing. I sighed, and trudged back to reception to clock out. I scribbled something down in the incident book. If there was some kind of biting bug infestation in the beetle bin, there was no way the play center was fit for public use. Perhaps the closing mechanism on the lid was rusted and my hand had caught on the hinge. That explained it. The stench, well, that would be gone as soon as the janitor team saw my note in the maintenance book. They'd just cart the bin off and haul it in the landfill, where it belonged. As for the creepy feeling, that was me. I thought, just being a scaredy little bitch. These explanations are so rational that I can almost bring myself to believe them. Thing is, I'm on the bus to work now to start the next shift. Has anyone got any idea what might be in that beetle bin that stinks so horribly? Ideally, I don't want to hear suggestions about severed limbs or dead kids. I feel a lot better if I knew what to tell the janitors so they take it away ASAP. If anyone's come across anything like this before, please let me know if you can. Hi guys. I would like to apologize for any confusion caused. I think my overtime shifts at the TunnelWig are draining me. As a result, I'm even more stupid than usual. Many thanks to those of you who offered suggestions as to what I should do. One person said I should flat out refuse to clean the soft play until the beetle bin's removed. I think in other circumstances I would. I don't want to cause friction with my manager. Plus, overtime money. Yesterday evening, I arrived a little early and headed to reception. Hi. I swallowed. I was cleaning the soft play last night, and one of the bins smelled really bad. I trailed off as the receptionist's disdainful look dried me up. Could you please ask one of the janitors to take a look for me? Did you change the bin bag? I tried, but whatever's in there is leaked and it's stuck to the bottom. She picked up a pen and scrawled a note into the janitor's book. I thanked her and made my way to the soft play. I stuck a podcast in my ears. Maybe a touch of brain rot would distract me from the crawling melancholy that came over me the night before. Pushing open the door, I was hit by a wave of freezing air. Why did they keep it so cold? I pulled my jacket over my shoulders and set to work. Time passed quicker than the night before. I knew the job better, and there was less mess. It being a weekday night. As a kid, I usually came to the soft play on weekdays after Mom pulled me out of school. There were two reasons for this. 1. It was quieter, which reduces my public meltdowns, and 2. It meant I could enjoy the play center after I stopped getting invited to other kids' birthday parties. As I leaned over to plunge my mop into the bucket, a memory slammed into my head like a truck. I had been to a party here once. The birthday boy, Jay was turning 6. The whole class was invited, so he couldn't leave me out. I spent the entire time playing in the ball pit. A series of images danced before my eyes, red, green, and yellow plastic balls rising up around me. A cluster of my classmates giggling through the mesh, looking over at me here and there. The stench, crying, and Mom's arms, driving home before they cut the cake. That was when the smell came back. It was as I watering ends when I'd stood over the open bin. Though now, I stood meters away. I covered my nose. No matter where I went, the smell persisted, a noxious ghost at every corner of the room. I persevered, holding my breath, but it soon overpowered me. The sticky, sickly, sweet rot was all I could perceive. I was forced to stagger upstairs to escape. There, it was a fraction better. The closer I got to the soft play's entrance, the fainter it became. I checked my phone. It was only 15 minutes to my shift's end. Reaching behind me, I pulled my feather duster from the caddy, knelt down, and crawled into the tunnel. My knees were comfortable against the cushioned floor, and the smell melted away. I had not realized how much my bones were aching until I let myself rest. I worked at jobs and get up at 4 a.m. to get to my first shift. Adding overtime to that is pushing my stamina. But what choice did I have? I tend to annoy bosses and colleagues just as much as I angered my friends at school. It's just how I am. That's why I got into cleaning. It's long hours, early starts, and late finishes, but I can get on with my work. And others don't have to deal with me. I don't bother them, and they don't bother me. You could never bother me. I opened my eyes. I hadn't realized they were closed. At first, I thought the words came from a kindly internal voice in my head. I mean, I know I'm sure how your internal monologue sounds. It wasn't like that. It wasn't my voice. It belonged to someone else. It sounded a little like my grandma, but thinner. The vowels were more crisp. The tone mottled. It was long and soft, with many spindly arms gently waving along. Silvery hair. The soft plama was warm beneath my cheek. I lifted my head quickly. What if there were cameras in here? If someone saw me knelt prayer-like with my head against the cushions, I'd get sacked or, at the very least, sent to a shrink. I stumbled to my feet and packed away my Hoover and caddy, aware of a mysterious yet acute sense of mourning. The Wi-Fi is shit in the soft play. Someone's message didn't ping on my phone until I reached the cloakroom. Hi, love. I'm outside. Shit. I stuffed my keys into my pocket. I had my bag and ran back to reception. I clocked out as quickly as I could. Outside, I scanned the dark, rain-lashed car park for the tinny Mercedes C-Class. I am far too old for rides home with family. That said, I hadn't asked her to pick me up. She'd swung by anyway. Sorry. I opened the door and hopped inside. Mom grinned. How was work? I asked. I need another job. She answered. I laughed. As bad as that? She looked at me. Her long, dark hair was tied in a ponytail that now bore the first strands of silver. She was 50. After all, her face curled in concern as she flicked the indicator and turned her attention back to the road. You look tired, sweetheart. I laughed and rubbed my eyes. Yeah, I am. I am okay. Though, I should never have taken you. What? I said I should never have taken you to the soft play. I thought for a second. Don't be daft. Mama. It was too much for you, she said, turning into our road. Look, you're crying and exhausted. The other kids were mean again, weren't they? Yes, they were, but it's my fault. I added, I was being weird. I think I miss Grandma. A WW. Mom looked so sad. We drove on in silence for a minute or so. Wait, no. Mama. The other kids weren't there today. She frowned. Huh? It's a weeknight. Remember? Mom nodded. I looked back at the road, only to find myself parked on my drive. I stayed in the car a second, letting the tears fall of their own accord. Good Lord, I thought. I miss her so much. I got out of the car and got inside the house. I made some food, took it to my room, and watched some YouTube for a bit. Has anyone else had weird shit in their feed recently? My YouTube history consists entirely of Real Housewives clips and Creepcast. So tell me why there was a wildlife documentary at the top of my recommended videos. I've ended up watching it anyway. I love animals. And it was a pretty cool episode. I put my phone on charge and let David and Unburrow's dulcet tones serenade me with the life cycle of buckling beetles. Feed on decaying fruits. Sweet decay. Larvae. Pie dish beetle. Thin. Loose silver hairs on their back. Predation. Predation. Abomination. Blasphemy. Satisfied that autoplay was on, I let myself drift further into reverie. Eggs laid in willing hosts. Wigs grow to full size in seconds. No less than you deserve. May your carcass rot in on hallowed ground. I was almost asleep when I felt something brush against my face. I turned my head. Another scuff. I opened my eyes. There, on my duvet, beside my hand which was half curled in sleep, was a beetle. Its back shone like a jewel in the moonlight. With a yelp, I tried to flick it from the covers, but it clung on. It was the same size as my phone. Its horns rose like aerials, at least 5 inches long. Its limbs spread akimbo, and a shrug. It was that manner of insect that makes you sick just by looking at it. I squealed and hurled my duvet off the bed to put some distance between myself and the freaky bud. It was a grave mistake. The creepy crawly had already done its work. As soon as the duvet hit the ground, the smell of putrefaction and birthday cake rose festered from my body. My skin was covered in round, suppurating holes where the wig's eggs were laid and hatched. Hungry generations scuttled underneath my pajamas. I felt larvae crawling through my breasts. Winged legions flew in and out of the cracks of my arms. Thighs as an abdomen as 1,000 dot-like black beetles swelled bigger by the instant inside my mouth and scuttled down my throat. I thrashed to free myself, but I had more limbs now, and I could control. The extra arms hung heavy at my sides as the hatchlings gnawed their way through my eardrums and clawed through my skull to taste the fatty brain meat within. I screamed in agony. Thankfully, my scream woke me up. Good thing I live alone. I hope the neighbors didn't hear me. No one said anything over the weekend, so I am pretty hopeful that I did not disturb them. I've had night terrors before. It's usually just a sign that I am stressed. So I called in sick this morning. I have today off, but I still have to do night shift as Nadia has still not come back to work. I'm going to try and chill today. I'm taking my book down to the park. If you need me, I will be feeding the Canada geese. I do not want to take more hours, but I need the money. I'll let you know how tonight goes and will update tomorrow. Thanks. Today was horrendous. I haven't shaken off the nightmare. It feels as though something's crawling in my brain. It's not a physical feeling, more a long, thin shudder crawling in my imagination. I feel unwell. The rent is due in a week. The leisure center was busier than usual last night with 50-somethings in lycra and sweatpants. Once I'd fought my way through this horror show to reception, I found the concierge absent from her desk. With a deep breath, I made my way along the corridor to the soft play center. Passing the office, I was surprised to see Craig hunched over his laptop at the Dryson Witch. He is never usually on site beyond 3 p.m. I tried to walk by, but it was too late. I'd made eye contact. I sensed he wanted to be left in peace, but he smiled. Callie, how ye doing? Fine. Thanks. Craig, how come you're here so late and not working so hard? I hope. He laughed. Nah, just problem solving. Sorry about Friday. Hey, no worries. You feeling better? I yell a lot better. Yeah? He narrowed his eyes. Could have fooled me. Really? I demurred. Nah, I promise. I'm alright. I'm sorry to leave you short. I bet it was a pain in the bum trying to find cover. He shook his head. No trouble. If you're ever feeling under the weather, I'd much rather you told me before it gets bad. His kind warning took me off guard. I promise I won't need any more sick days. I don't mean that. He said. You're fine. Callie, I'd much rather you told me if something was wrong. That's all. I can't lose any more good staff. I was flattered, but his meaning wasn't lost on me. As someone left, he heaved a heavy sigh. It doesn't look like Nadia's coming back. Like, ever? Craig nodded. I was sad to hear it, though, somehow, I wasn't surprised. Is she okay? I think she's got a lot of stuff going on at home. It's for the best. Bless her. Wexham Park rang this morning. She's in hospital. I swallowed. I pictured the cheery, smiling Nadia curled up on a hospital bed, with the smell of iodine and nursal arms beeping incessantly around her. That's between us. I know I don't need to say that. I nodded hard. But the point stands. He continued. If these R's ever get too much for you, if this place ever gets under your skin, you've got to tell me. Okay? Of course. It was under my skin already, and I couldn't burden Craig after he'd been so nice. I grabbed my cleaning caddy and skulked off to start work. As the staff had left, the play center was eerily quiet as ever, and the floors were littered with popcorn following a movie party. I shoved my earphones in and swept the sticky denizens into a dustpan. The smell was on me like a hawk and only worse, and as I tried to ignore it, I'd sprayed a cleaning cloth with lavender room spray earlier that day. I produced it from my pocket and pressed it against my nose. Like a plague doctor, terrified of bad airs. Barely an hour passed when it got too much, and I was forced upstairs. The tunnel ran through the jumbled gem like the marshy veins that flowed through my hands. I knelt. My knees sunk into pillows, giving themselves to be held. I pressed my nose against the crash mat. I smelled as sickly sweet as the vomit I scratched from my throat when I was 17. The taste of a child's birthday cake mingled with acidic bile. I shut my eyes. That was when I felt it. Beneath the vinyl carpet, something was stirring. The floor rose, just barely, like an infant's chest rising and falling in sleep. What was? Remembering myself, I pulled my head up from the floor. I pulled, and pulled harder. It was no good. My head was stuck to the floor. The insipid peace melted away and terror succeeded. I cried out, twisting my neck around, and hunched my shoulders in a desperate attempt to free myself from the floor. I scratched. I clawed. I wrenched. A sinewy vine of pink foam stretched from the spot where I laid my head to my cheek. I reached for the sagging center and clenched my fists around the mallow white endrail, trying to tear it into. It was warm to the touch and moist. In my hunted grip, I swear I felt its pulse radiating through my arms, beating in time with my heart. Get off me, I pulled, but the fleshy rope wouldn't break. It only stretched as I pulled it thinner and thinner, like a taffy strip. When it was like strands of spaghetti, I scrambled to my feet, turning to the padded walls. I scraped my palms against the climbing ropes. The squashy capillaries stuck fast to the rope but cloyed my hands. It would not relinquish me. Get off. I burst into a scrambling, stumbling run down the foam-padded corridors. I was too big for them now. The nimble child I once was now lay underneath the interlocking foam mats, pressed between layers of the memories of sleeping children. At 25, I was an adult in a birth canal, cuckolded, the sin-herded, scrambling towards the slide and the gaping ball pit that was my only exit. I reached the top of the slide, just the floor beneath my feet turned warm with life. The smell of birthday cake flooded my senses. Paired with children's laughter, I hurled myself down the scarlet plastic slide, whirling towards destruction. The ball pit opened up, ready to swallow me whole. I screamed as a million multicolored balls swelled around me. I was an infection, a parasite, worthy only of a swift immune response. It's all that I have ever been. Taking one last gasp of air, I turned my nose and mouthed into the pit and hauled myself towards the exit. My eyes were wide with terror as I stared at what seemed like miles of ball pit beneath me. Popped party balloons, snacks wet with spittle, and used nappies populated its depths, overpowered by the stench. I pursed my lips and held that final breath, even as it festered in my lungs because I could not smell whatever was down there. I strained to hold my breath, letting air out in tiny increments through my mouth to relieve the burning pressure in my chest. Something rumbled beneath my middle as I floated blindly through the plastic ocean. I floundered, in vain, to move myself closer to the exit that I had not had to use for nearly 20 years. Was it still there? Or had it moved? Even if the exit was the same as in 2007, would I fit through that tiny circle of light meant only for children? Besides, I could never fit all my arms and legs through the hole. I wriggled on my back, flailing my many limbs. Helpless, frightened tears poured down my face as I imagined the poor staff having to find me, my mandibles opening and closing as a supersonic screech poured out of me. My abdomen furrowed over with silver hairs like an old strawberry. They shouldn't have to see me. No one should. I don't want to bother anyone. I was an adult now. How was I still incapable of coordinating my monstrous body? Why did my legs and arms get by as dangling dead weights for so long? I have never hated myself so much as I did at the moment. Bitch. My voice was high and low all at once, composed of frequencies that most could not hear. Stupid fucking bitch. I hate you. I hate you. I-F-U-C-K-I-N-G-A, Sh-T-I-O-U. Fueled by self-loathing, I pulled with all my might. A supersonic screech of effort burst from my mouth as I raised my armored head towards the gap. My front arms went first, then another pair. My second. Third, then. My front legs. Back legs. And all of my bloated, shivering, hairy abdomen until at last, like a fever, I burst from the ball pit, trampling broken fragments of shell, spurred on by the sugary grease that coated the floor. Putrescent, cadaver sweet decay, my rotten home. A feeling of the cold, sticky floor beneath my cheek brought me to myself. I felt as though I were on fire with terror as I staggered to my feet and ran down the stairs to the cafe area and the blessed exit beyond. I knocked over my cleaning caddy, spilling acrid fluids on the floor as my trainers scraped the ground and my laces caught beneath. I hit the ground hard but staggered up as my heart pounded and my head reverberated with pain. I barely stopped to get my car keys and dashed my hip against the tables as I swerved to lift my bag and threw myself towards the corridor. Tears of fright blurred my vision as I jabbed the key code and beneath the gaudy bubble writing on the door. Good job. You found the tunnel wig. I was out of the door like a bat out of hell. The rickety lockers creaked as my footsteps sent earthquakes through the floor. Callie? I heard Craig's voice, warm and anxious, behind me. But I did not stop. I did not even look behind me until I got to my car. I floored it home as phantom beetles scuttled over my throat and down the back of my neck. How cold and dark my bedroom was. I slept with the light on. But this domicile comfort did nothing for the smell. It was everywhere. It clung to my duvet and pillows and bled into the futile perfumes I sprayed all through the night to keep it at bay. I did not sleep, but pressed my nose into my grandma's old jersey. I kept my phone open to see the picture of Mom on my home screen. My beautiful mother, the only one who ever loved me. But that's not true, is it? There is another that would love me profoundly if only I let it. My 6am alarm went off, and I was so sick of the smell that I felt no options were left. I would have to return to the place where the stench can't follow. Tonight's my last shift. I go gladly and feel no fear. Craig, I don't think I'll be clocking in tomorrow morning. I am sorry to give such short notice. I know it's inconvenient. To my mom and grandma, I love you so very much. And I am sorry. Please don't worry about me. I am happy. I greet the rising mound of foam with joy. It will wrap around me with the ardor of a lover and with all the warmth of childhood. It cares not that I am what I am. It will not spit me out. I am with my brothers and sisters now. All of us pressed like layers of earth beneath the foamy floor. I don't know what else to say. Knowing me, I have probably left something out. Sorry. Anyway, that's all I've got time to write. It's getting on, and I'll be late for work.